Hello my friends. I was asked to make a video of the greenhouse and the build that I've been doing for the last 4 months, and this is going to be it. The greenhouse physical dimension is 20 foot by 48 feet. The access or utility building that's attached on the north end is 14 feet by 20 foot wide. That houses the fish tanks and most of the electrical equipment and anything that I need to support the growing plants. The system that I'm using is called a Chop 2 system. Chop 2 meaning constant height, one pump, and the 2 designates that the water is being pumped in 2 directions. One direction is to the fish tank, the other is to the growing medium or growing beds or towers. What I'm growing in is the flood and drain grow beds. This is filled with gravel. The gravel is the area where most of the bacteria will be living, that converts the fish waste into the nitrates that the plants need to nourish them, and by doing that, that's cleaning the water and getting pumped back to the fish. I'm also using the raft system. Over top of the sump tank is a floating raft, 2-inch foam with 2-inch holes drilled into it that takes net cups. Net cups support the plants that sit inside the floating foam. In the water of the raft bed is air stones to pump in air so that you aerate the roots into that system. The other system that I'm using is growing towers. The towers is the network that's directly behind me. Most of it's still under construction, still being experimented with what type seem to work or will work better for me. The other system that I'm using and liking and real well is wicking beds, which I've never done that before, and I love the idea that the plants never dry up. There's always water there available to them. They're never soaking wet because it's absorbing the water from underneath, and it's allowing a lot of the air in the soil to get to the plant roots. I water that system with the discharge fish waste, the solid waste from the fish tanks. I do it on a daily basis to discharge the solids out of the swirl filters. November 2nd, it snowed last night, so beginning of our winter. About 9 more months of it. Sunny day today. Thought I would take some pictures because we don't get too many nice days like this. Okay, the greenhouse is 20 foot by 48 foot, and the utility building, which houses the fish, is 14 foot by 20 foot, and it's pole barn construction. This is the south end of the greenhouse. I have door access and some windows that I can open up for ventilation. It's a permanent wall rather than just the plastic. The sides of the greenhouse, I have roll-up sides with bug screening on the inside. And you can see at the top of the utility building there's a ventilation that's going to be to house a high volume fan. These straps on the greenhouse are for securing the plastic covering and for wind bracing. The straps on the side are for holding the sides when you roll them up. It keeps the sides tight to the greenhouse as it's being rolled. There's an access door in the attic space of the utility building. It allows me room for storage and for access to the ventilation. The exterior to the utility building is covered with hemlock lumber. And the doors, I made them double wide so that I could access the building for large tanks for the fish. The interior of the utility building is my workspace, and it also houses the fish tanks. There's 4 fish tanks, 250 gallons each. They're IBCs, intermediate bulk containers, that were refurbished. They used to hold food grade products in them. The interior of the building is covered with a heavy plastic lining. Inside the walls is 4 inches of fiberglass insulation. On the exterior is again another layer of plastic, and then the hemlock siding. You can see right here is the service entrance coming in. To the right there is gas line. That large green unit is a power transfer switch that I have plans on using for a gas generator. That's what the gas line is there for. I have the generator. It's going to take a little more time to get everything hooked together. The generator's purpose is if there's a power failure, it will turn on automatically and I won't have loss of power. So my pumps and electric and lighting will be uninterrupted. Also, I have installed a gas furnace. This is going to keep both the utility building and the greenhouse warm through the winter. I'm still doing some construction. Most of the work is finished. This is my workstation. I have a sink, stainless steel countertop, and this is for access to planting, seeds, cutting, whatever I need to do for servicing the greenhouse. The fish tanks, I have monitors to monitor the temperatures of the water. You can see here the 2 tanks, 65 and 64 degrees. One of the tanks is filled with bluegill, perch, and crappie. These came out of my pond. Second tank has bass. Trying to see if you can see any. They're pretty big ones in there. Third tank is tilapia. The tilapia are cleaning up my lettuce that's starting to bolt. And the third tank is catfish. There's about 100 of them in there. And water temperature in the tilapia tank is 65 degrees. The water flow into the fish tanks coming from the sump tank. The outflow coming from a standpipe, pulling water off of the bottom of the tank. Then The discharge is going into this filter tank. It's a swirl filter. Water's coming in, diverted at an angle, makes a real gentle swirling action, and the outtake is this center pipe. This first filter is a solid removal. There's a funnel shape at the very bottom of this tank. It's hard to see, it looks like a mirror. The funnel shape opens with a valve, and it allows me to discharge water and solids come out with the discharge. Okay, from this outflow of the swirl tank, it goes into the second filter tank. This is fine particle removal. The large solids that aren't removed, or the large solids are removed in the first tank, the fine particles then flow through this tank. It's filled with bird netting, and the bird netting latches onto the real fine particles. This is cleaned about once every 1 to 2 weeks, and this type of filter system should remove about 90 to 95% of all the particles that's in the water. And the discharge from this one goes buried through the ground into the sump tank. The sump tank is buried in the ground. It's 6 foot wide by 10 foot long, and access to the sump tank is this bench seat. Everything from the fish tanks to the grow beds to the growing towers, they all drain back into this sump tank. This sump tank is about 4 feet deep. You can't see the pumps. It's down there pretty good. Holds about 1,600 gallons of water. The system that I'm using is called a CHOP 2. CHOP standing for constant height, 1 pump, and 2 designating that the water is split going into 2 directions. One direction is to the fish tank, the other direction is to the growing beds. You can see here on the outlet there's 2 plugs. I happen to have 2 pumps, and the purpose of having a second pump, it's not part of the CHOP 2 system, meaning 1 pump. What I found is I need extra pressure to push water into my grow towers. Okay, the fundamental system going on here, first of all, I have this raft bed over top of my sump tank, and it fills up. Right here is the intake into the tank. The tank is divided into 2 halves. It extends to the far end. There's a inlet into the second half. The second half flows over to here, and if I can raise this side up, right there is the discharge that flows into the sump tank, and you can see underneath air tubes there is air stones inside that's providing oxygen for the roots to the plants. My temperature control set here with this thermostat. I have it set for 65 degrees. The temperature usually is maintained around 70 to 80 degrees during the day when the sun is out, and that's winter time. The